Journeys Ahead, Draft 2, Chapter 10, Heart to Beating Heart. Written and narrated by T.S. ProArt. Sitting together on an old wooden park bench, Void and Jida rested in a tired slouch, with Pofnu situated between the both of them. At their sides, relaxing on soft, dying green grass, was Nock, Cot, alongside Sarv and Tucker, all eating ice cream within Aurora's Central Park. In Void's right metal scratched hand, he licked at your average, boring vanilla cone. In Jida's, she quickly scarfed down a cookie dough bowl sundae, as to not melt it with her excess fire. Between them both, Pofnu, like an actual feral fox, was nibbling away at a chocolate chip ice cream cookie sandwich. The air was a bit cool for most to have ice cream on that day, but given the circumstances, this was the best Nock could do for a cheap price. With her winds, Mother Nature gently carried armies of red, yellow, and orange leaves from the trees above all the way down to the world below. Regular people were out and about, walking dogs, riding bikes, and even attempting to sell things as most city folk did, trying to make a quick buck, as one would say. Within the far-off distance, the group of oddballs could see the outline of the northern side's extravagant designs. Tall skyscrapers, bustling noise, and the spitting image of wealth, the preferred life as everyone came to view it. Central Park, though, it rested just on the outskirts of both city sides. It was like a small land bridge in actuality, a centerpiece that even made the great bridge over the river look like a dinky passageway. The poor and rich were always mixed here, not as rivals, but as a community, something the city should have been more of in general. "You like your sandwich, honey?" Jida asked with a motherly tone to her voice, while rubbing Pofnu's little head, which made a gentle nodding motion. "What the hell happened to you three in there?" Nock suddenly blurted in his constant state of anxiety, as he and his friends remained mostly in the dark as to what had occurred to the kids. Huffing and wincing with his thoughts, Void began to squeeze the cone in his hand, causing it to ever so lightly crack with a splitting crunch. What happened? The words repeated inside him, slamming into his brain and heart like oncoming traffic. Void wasn't sure how he would explain, but Nock and the others already knew the basics of his life struggles. What would be the point in holding back the details now? "We didn't get the information we needed. Lotus and his glitches had already taken over the world by the time me and Jida got there. Pofnu seems to be the only survivor." The spark gently began to explain with a tired side-eye towards the adults, who looked back at him with a whirlwind of thoughts. "Lotus?" Sarv questioned with a big tilt in her feathery layered head. "Evil cube guy. He's a leader of monsters and stuff that really messed up Void's life." Jida tried to explain, while wiping some melting ice cream away from Pofnu's fuzzy little chin. "The leader of the monsters that took your home?" The big bullhorn speculated with a similar tilt in his head. "You know?" Void blurted back, immediately curious as to how. Jad explained it in your defense," Kai revealed with a lick to a strawberry cone that unfortunately floated upwards to the top of his watery head. Was the only word that left Void's mouth, as he now stared blankly ahead at the park trees. For a moment, he thought one would have been glitched or layered in static. He was always mentally preparing for it, for something to be wrong or out of place, panicked that he would always be too late to see it. However, all Void saw instead was a family of 4 walking on by, with a little baby in a stroller. "Why are the monsters destroying worlds, Void? What's their purpose?" Sarv suddenly hooted, which snapped the spark back to his surroundings. Glancing over to the big owl, He adjusted himself and then took another lick from his ice cream, pondering the question himself. Because they feel as though they weren't given a chance to properly exist. He stated in a stern voice before leaning his head back and looking up at the trees' falling leaves. Glitches, errors, false souls, they go by so many names. They're an ancient, tyrannical race of beings who were some of the firstborn creatures from the Big Bang's eruption. You see, within our omniverse, all life has meaning, even to the smallest percent. Lotus, his glitches, they are the opposite of that notion. Squinting his eyes, Void watched and took a good look upon every leaf that fell, each one pretty and selfless, beautiful and kind, a contrast to the violent forms of existence that had been leaving his mouth. The monsters are created from the errors in all life. They are the collected energies born out of literal glitches in existence. For example, say you were supposedly eating a pepperoni pizza, a natural plot beat in what Lotus would refer to as a story. But instead, you end up eating a sausage pizza. That little hiccup in a reality point then leads to a broken essence of matter flowing into a negative zone beneath all realities. Their home, the realm. A place I'm trying to find and seal off for good. Reaching a hand up, Void caught one of the leaves and slowly lowered it down to his eye level. Its orange hues looked beautiful in the fading sunlight behind the clouds. He could see every stem vein, wrinkle, and hole in its faded form. Even in death, the spark found nature to truly be beautiful, making it something worth protecting in his eyes. Their mere existence alone can tear realities apart if they try to leave the other realm. They can't physically exist because they were never meant to exist. And because of that, they are the way they are. I would have been willing to help them if they weren't so hellbent about killing and replacing everyone. It's envy in its worst form. With his eyes furrowing down, Void released the leaf from his fingers and watched it drop to the ground below, joining the hundreds of others just like it. A familiar face in a sea of similarities. Just like the very omniverse he swore to protect. Millions of years ago, they were attempting to take over all life as they are now, until an ancient bygone force sealed them away. Now, after years of rebuilding their energy, they've returned to finish what they started. And as far as I'm aware, I've been the only one who's been trying to stop them. Reaching a hand out, Jida rubbed Void's shoulder and gave him a nod, reminding the Spark that he wasn't alone in this fight. Not anymore. Looking back, he gave the tiniest of smiles with an added nod, thanking Jida for all she had done thus far. Jealousy evolved into anger. Makes sense. I can't imagine what it must be like knowing that I wasn't supposed to exist. Tucker stated with a sense of understanding as he ate an ice cream sandwich akin to Pofnews. And you've been fighting these things by yourself since how long? Sarv wordly asked as she sat perplexed by the Spark's tale. A little over 5 years. And here I thought we'd actually get somewhere in understanding that multiversal constellation pattern. But without the spectral fox, we won't be able to read the map and figure it all out. Back to a square one as always. Void softly ranted in a defeated tone as he slowly lifted his head back up from his memory spill. He was hurting on the inside in a way that nobody could understand. It was always roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, a never-ending cycle of issue upon issue, anger to sadness and back again, always so close, yet so far.
Constellation patterns? My people aren't the only ones with the knowledge you seek.
Pofnu suddenly said aloud, getting everyone to turn towards her. What? Void asked as he felt the little one place her tiny hand upon the roof of his left.
Sorry, I was listening to your brain. My people can read souls, minds. I don't understand the patterns you seek myself, but there's others out there that do. They call themselves the Crescents.
Pofnu revealed, which got everyone all the more curious, Void especially of which, getting a giddy feeling to arise in his heart. The Crescents? Jida inquired as the fall breeze began to pick up.
Yes, although they aren't the nicest birds around. But my people were given knowledge by them from a deal. They could help. Maybe.
The little one explained, which got everyone on their toes. Pofnu, what's the name of this place where the Crescents reside? Void asked as he kneeled down to be at the little fox's eye level.
I believe it's the lands of the Lunar Souls. My papa would always talk about it in his stories.
At the mention of her father, Pofnu suddenly looked to fall back into a sad state, which sparked Jida to hold her close once again. Whoa. Well, guess we have a new lead, she said with a half smirk, whilst finishing off the ice cream. Guess so, Void replied with a sense of hope, as the hints of a setting sun began to make itself known from in between the clouds. Alright, before we jump to anything, we should probably head back. It's gonna get dark real quick, Nock nervously said, as he too finished his ice cream. Yeah, we gotta get back to our place and clean up shop. Look, if y'all need anything, just let us know, Sarv added as both her and Tucker stood with a worried look to their eyes. Seriously, we'll see y'all on Sunday, she finished, as they all wondered what the next day would bring. Being as quiet as he could, Void gently tucked a sleeping Pofnu into the cozy confines of what was unfortunately Jida's sock drawer, which was now acting as the little one's makeshift bed. The late hours of the night had once again arose over the city of Aurora, meaning it was time to let the little one, as well as everyone else, get some sleep. With her being nice and snug, wrapped up in a little towel with the many socks as pillows, Void sighed and opened his arm hatch, pulling out his old teddy bear. Looking back down at the fox, he could see her hands itching and clawing for something, anything to cling to. It was apparent that she was dreaming, Void realized, or perhaps having a nightmare. Huffing, he gently placed his beloved teddy within Pofnu's little arms, which sparked her to latch around it in a warm and tight hold. After doing as such, her little grabby motions halted and were replaced by the gentle snores of slumber. There you go, kid. Just return them in the morning, Void quietly whispered with a small rub to Pofnu's head, while the sound of a live stream video music played out from Jida's phone. It was a small beat, a lo-fi, Void recalled her saying. He didn't fully understand what it meant, but he couldn't deny that it did sound nice, as it played from her nightstand top. Hey, she asleep? The words of that very same person asked, getting Void to turn around in a slow sway. Standing and leaning against her doorway, Jida wore a large baggy black shirt saying, "Screw it, we ball," in white bold letters, with an added basketball design below it. Round her legs, she wore a pair of red sleeping shorts with an added set of yellow bunny slippers that encased her feet. Jaida's hair was also tied up into a bun for the night, but through it all, Void couldn't shake his eyes from her beautiful stare, which made his heart beat against his chest like a thundering hammer. "Yeah, out like a light," he answered with a fist tap to his chest that was now covered in a t-shirt. Upon returning home, Kai had decided to give the Spark some of his old clothes from when he was younger. Around his torso, Void wore a dark blue shirt that was all wrinkled and baggy, one that was thin enough that the outline of his blue glowing heart chamber faded on through. Around his upper legs, Void had on a pair of white basic shorts with one clip tightener string. It was odd for him to be wearing such normal clothes after so long, but he didn't really mind. They were comfy compared to his armor. Good. Jaida whispered with a sense of relief as she now approached Void with both hands behind her back in an added swaying motion. "Hey, I have something here for you, if you want it," Jaida revealed, getting Void to tilt his head and raise an eyebrow. "What is it?" he questioned as Jaida got about a foot length away from his body and then revealed what was behind her back. "Ta-da!" she said in another whisper, while now holding a necklace that looked just like hers up and in front of the Spark. It was practically identical to hers outside of one little change. Instead of the crystal pick being blue, it was now a glistening orange, nearly the same shade as her hair. "A necklace?" Void asked as he stared into his own reflection within its tangy shine. "A friendship necklace. I made it myself," Jaida revealed with a little hop and jitter in her hands, before she lowered the item and held it within both hands in front of her chest. "You made that just now?" Void asked as he carefully raised his left hand and held the pumpkin-colored piece within his palm. Well, no. I actually made it a couple years ago, hoping to make a friend and give it to them. I don't have any friends of my own. Or at least I didn't until you showed up, Blue." Smiling in a tiny smirk, Void, with soft fingers, took the necklace from Jaida's hands and then draped it over his orb-shaped head. With a small clink, it clunked against his glowing blue chest and glimmered beautifully within the room's dimly lit one lamp light. Setting his eyes back forwards, the Spark grinned upon Jaida and nodded his head in appreciation. It's beautiful, Freckles. I've never had something like this before. Thank you." For a moment, Jaida's face looked the furrow into a sad expression. Her eyes drooped into a downward curve, but her mouth then swiftly curved in the opposite direction, going up into a quivering smile. "Thanks," she said, with the two of them now locking their eyes. Before Void could speak again, Jaida suddenly lunged forwards and embraced him with a hug so tight that it partially startled him. Reaching up, Void too hugged his friend, resulting in the both of them to rock back and forth in place. "Sorry, I've waited so long to meet someone like you. Someone who understands, you know?" Jaida apologized as the two of them both began to sway in each other's arms in small shuffles around the room. "How do you think I feel? I've had nothing for so long. Then you come swooping in like, I don't know, an angel, I guess?" Void replied as they both pulled back, whilst continuing to hold on to one another's arms. "Well, the people here refer to me as the Cosmic Angel. But yeah, I have no right to speak compared to how you must be feeling. Sorry." Jida apologized with a scrunch in her head as the music in the background began to pick up in a steady beat. To its rising tune, Void began to gently pull their arms forwards and backwards from one another, creating the beginning motions to some type of dance. Comparison is not important in the grand scale of what's happened. We've both lost a lot. Your tragedy is just as important as all tragedies, Jida. We've both kind of needed something like this. Void stated, as Jida began to realize what he was doing with her stances. I suppose... Wait, are you? She asked before gasping as Void suddenly twirled her around in a ballet move. The motion was done with such precision and care, it took the guitarist by complete surprise. What? You know how to dance? She asked in a loud whisper as to not wake Pavnu. Yes. My father taught both me and my brother. Dancing was a big part of Spark culture. Void explained as he spun around Jida's blushing face, whilst turning his limbs around in a 360 motion to keep his eyes upon hers. Outside of fighting, we were a civilized and kind race that was truthfully full of wonder. We always enjoyed the little aspects of everything, giving it our all down to the smallest thing. Dancing, or sula, as we called it in our language, was a part of life. Void revealed as he instinctually wrapped his right arm around Jida's waist, whilst holding her free hand in his left. Oh, wow. You didn't strike me as the type. She replied with a continuous deep blush and sparkle to her eyes, as Void continued to do most of the work. I've never really danced before. The guitarist stuttered in a bashful and embarrassed sentence, as Void continued to spin her in elegant ways that she found to be incredible. That's okay. Just try and follow the motions. Here, stand on my feet. Void guided as he stanced himself in a midway spin. Looking down, Jida carefully stood atop Void's metal and was instantly entered into his rhythm. Void's steps were now hers, his motions mimicked upon her legs and arms. It was surreal. Never had she felt so at ease, so free. This boy, Jida thought, behind his scars, his fears and his anger, she could see him for the soul he truly was. Void was a wonder in her eyes. You're truly amazing, you know? She said with a brace-filled smile, getting Void to bashfully look to the side. Nah, I'm not special. You should have seen my family. They had so many better moves than my dinky little basics. Void replied, resulting in Jida giving him a stern stare with her burning orange eyes. You're amazing, she repeated, as she then moved her arms up and wrapped them around Void's back neck. To me, at least. From this compliment, Void's face flinched into a bizarre mix of emotions. His mouth went wavy, one of his eyes enlarged while the other shrunk. It was all there for just a moment, as his heart began to swell like a sinking drain. He wasn't certain if this is what it was like to have friends again, or perhaps it was the feeling of something more. In truth, they were both thinking this, but Jida, she felt to have more of an understanding as to what she was feeling. It was the early stages of love. Conflicted love that she didn't fully grasp yet. Well, you're amazing too, Jida, was all Void could reply with, as a purple glow began to emanate from the two of them. Although faint, Void's eyes and horns emanated this lavender shine, as Jida's own eyes and hair did the same, making them both a tad stunned. They had noticed the purple flares from before, but not like this. Although new, somewhere deep inside, they weren't worried by the change in hues. It felt natural in a way, like two puzzle pieces clicking together in an odd sense. Why are we purple? Jida rightfully asked, as she leaned her head in closer to the voids. Good question, he replied, while moving his head closer as well. Was this really about to happen? Jida thought inside, as Void's mind raced with the same notion. Awkwardly, the two began to pucker their lips. Sweat spilled from their brows. Their bodies began to shake. Neither had kissed anyone before, let alone tried it. The feeling they both felt inside, it was exhilarating, yet also terrifying. Yet, before they could share such a memorable moment in their lives, the two dorks ended up bonking their foreheads together, which sent them both stumbling back in both pain as well as realization. Ow! Jida exclaimed as the purple glow disappeared and was replaced with an awkward follow-up. Oh! Matira's Grace, I am so sorry. Void shouted whilst covering his mouth, realizing what had almost happened. No, that was my fault. I didn't... Jida apologized too, wanting to take the blame, only for Void to quickly butt his own self back in. No, that was my mistake. I should have. I didn't mean, I didn't intend. Rubbing the back of his head, Void looked to the side with a sense of fluttering thoughts racing through his soul. That was odd, he thought, as Jida tried to shake the blush away from her face. Okay, let's get some sleep. We've clearly had a long day, and we have a longer day ahead. She muttered in multiple stutters as the flush of color to her cheeks refused to leave. Yes, I agree. Yeah. The spark started back as he turned and quickly climbed into the bed. Good night, Jida. He bidded farewell with a fake chuckle as the guitarist too climbed into her own bed and turned off the light. Night, Void. She replied as well, as they both now laid facing away from one another, feeling nothing but embarrassment in their hearts. Raising his hands, Void covered his face and released a muffled sigh. Too fast, he screamed inside, while Jida took her pillow and pressed her face into its comfy confines. She groaned in embarrassment, leaving them both to just awkwardly lay awake in silence.